Welcome to Landlord Diaries, where we talk about midterm rentals and the opportunities behind them. We'll share landlord stories, talk about maximizing investment potential, and discuss how to live the very best landlord life. This podcast is proudly brought to you by Furnished Finder, the place for everything midterm rentals. Remember to like and subscribe if you enjoy our content.
Katie, we are back with another episode of the Landlord Diaries. It's your host team coming to you from the Furnished Finder Marketing Department. I'm Kelly Bailey in the Austin, Texas area. We've got Katie Lyon in the Denver area. And Katie, it's another one of those amazing episodes about VAs. We are just getting so many fun VA conversations, AI conversations, and of course, lots of details on midterm rentals. So what were your takeaways from today?
Well, this is our acronym episode. We've got KPI, EOS, SOP, AI. There's probably more in there, but key takeaways, Michelle and Vin have put together like systems, and they have prepared their business so that if they were to get 50 properties tomorrow, like they are ready. And I think that's something we can all learn from, even if maybe you have one property and you just want to scale to 2. Right? These practices can be applied to businesses of any types, and they're made so that you don't have to live within your business so much, but that your business can kind of become more of a self-working machine. So there's lots and lots of great tips, technology tips, system tips, things to pay attention to in your business. So this is a great one to get your notebook out for, or open the notes app on your phone and get ready, because we got some good stuff in here.
Today we talk with Legacy Crash Pads in San Antonio, Texas. With multiple years in real estate, capital raising, and the MTR space, Vin Ochoa and Michelle Bryan have tons of knowledge to share in regards to buying real estate, KPIs, SOPs, and VAs. Their portfolio includes 19 single-family homes, 3 arbitrage, 11 of which are midterm rentals. Thank y'all so much for being with us today. We appreciate you joining us. How are each of you doing today?
Great.
We're doing great. Thank you for having us on. We appreciate the time and the opportunity.
Yes, sir. Well, we are excited to tell your story on the Landlord Diaries. And let's start right with the meat of the conversation. Let's jump into midterm rentals. So you have 11. Tell us about your midterm rentals, who they serve, are they all houses, etc.?
Okay. I thought Michelle was going to take this, so no worries. So again, we're in San Antonio, Texas, which, if you don't know, is known as Military City. So that's our ideal avatar. We like helping the military, especially Michelle. Her entire family was military, and so that's what we try to extend the properties out to first, is the incoming military coming in for. It's usually pilots coming in for training. We work with insurance companies for displaced families. San Antonio's really been on the upswing in regards to people coming in. So there's a lot of traveling professionals, traveling nurses. I think something that's under the radar that a lot of people don't think about is construction companies. We've been dealing with a lot of people like that. There's just a big influx of activity and people coming into San Antonio. So that's a brief overview of
Who you're housing.
Correct.
Michelle, do you want to tell us about the properties?
Yeah, so majority of them are single family homes. We have 3-2s, a couple of 3-2s, but majority are 4-2s. They're really catered to when the pilots do come in and or families. In regards to fully furnished, it could be basically a room within a pit pad within a home. So those are majority of our catering. Also, the great thing about our portfolio and how we built it strategically, they were within probably about a 5-mile radius, majority of them, so that when we need any type of cleaning services and or emergency maintenance requests, we do have staff on hand that can be able to reach out to them.
Love it. All right. So you guys are big on KPIs, which are also known as key performance indicators for your business, which I think is great because it's kind of leveling up your business a little bit. So tell us a little bit more about what KPIs you use and how those have helped to kind of step up your game and improve your business overall.
Well, I would say the biggest thing for us why we started implementing KPIs, because we've both been business owners for a long time, even outside of this industry. You know, when I had started, I didn't know anything about KPIs, masterminds, networking, any of that. It's just if there's money coming in and there's food on the table, we're good. But I would say for KPIs for us is huge, because as opposed to just trying to figure out what revenue came in and what went out at the end of the month, with the KPIs, we can literally make adjustments on the fly, pretty much in real time, just because we can indicate on a day per day basis if we wanted to, weekly basis or even monthly basis. So that's really helped emphasize, why somebody didn't book with us, through Furnish Finders. You depending on what information they've provided, there's emails, there's phone numbers, and then we can try to reach out and try to accommodate. With the unmatched listings, we can usually try to have a conversation and be like, well, I'm really looking for a 2-bedroom, but you only have 3 bedrooms. And if there's anything that we can do, then we can try to get that booked and have it be a win-win for both sides. And having a CRM that can track all that, also when we get hits in a different part of San Antonio, then on the acquisition side, which again, Michelle's, that's her driving force, then we can start looking at pockets within a different area that we're not currently in. So for KPIs is everything for us. And again, key performance indicators.
Excellent. And so how do you take that big picture look at KPIs and implement it into your daily operations?
So we utilize the EOS as far as traction. So from Gina Wickman, that is a book that I would highly recommend anyone starting out with, even if it is one person and scaling your business up to 100 plus employees. So we do have a lot of virtual, especially virtual assistants that assist us, and we are a virtual based company when it comes to our internal staff. So we really reverse engineer it. So we just actually did our last quarter and 2024, really leadership got together, deep dive of 4 days of just really breaking it down. What are we looking to do? What did our goals align from last year? And what do those new KPIs look like? So we have the big overview view, and that's 10-year goal, your 3-year, and then your 1 year. And then we break it down per position, and say, okay, well, what does this look like on a monthly basis, and how much sales activity or operation support do we need in order to hit those goals? Because in order to get the big goal, you have to get the smaller goals. So it allows us to really peel back the onions, and for each role. And when someone's not hitting their goal, we can look back at their call time, their dials. We can look back at the relationship. We're not hitting one of our KPIs, is making sure that we have great customer service and speed of service. So if we don't hit that, is it because we don't have the ratings? Is it because of the communication? We weren't able to address certain things for our tenants and our guests. So really just breaking that down. And then we do have a monthly review with our team for each position. So really letting them know, did you hit the mark? Did you not? What is it? Is it additional training? Is it software? Sometimes our technology is not the best, just in technology in general. And so always just really as a leadership team, really to make sure that we're setting up our team for success, because in return, it sets us up as a business for success.
Okay, so let's talk about that team a little bit, because you mentioned your team quite a few times there. And I think that's an important thing that real estate businesses have, especially as they grow and they scale. So who all is a part of your team? And let's talk about how you grew that alongside with growing your portfolio.
Yeah, sure. So as we mentioned, we're physically boots on the ground in San Antonio. We're physically here. Our properties are here. But I had learned about VAs a couple of years ago. I've been in different industries and I had kept hearing about it for years, but I hate to say it, but I'm kind of a control freak. So it probably took me 2 to 3 years to kind of even give away 10% of the reins. But once I did, it was like, holy crap, it's a game changer. And it really is just learning how to let go. Once I did that in a completely different business, it was just like, okay, what do I do with my time? I've been so busy doing the day-to-day operations, the stuff that doesn't necessarily make you money, but it's things that have to get done. And so it was like, all right, well, what do I do now? And then it was like, well, now I can focus on growing the business. And so from that experience, it just brought it back into here. And once we got to a point to where either Michelle or I were limiting the growth of the business by being still in that seat, they're like, okay, now it's time to offset it. And then putting SOPs in place, which is again, a standard operating procedures, and pretty much doing a blueprint. And then doing the whole interview. I mean, the interview process is still the interview process. It's just like you would anybody else. But then with the VA, I would say that all our VAs are out of the Philippines, and it's really the most bang for your buck in regards to pay and then the output that you get. But we have somebody specific just for customer service. We've learned along the way that you can't just hand over everything to a VA. You got to really be organized and delegate and give them the role in their lane. Otherwise, there's just a lot of cross-contamination, if you will. So we have a VA just for customer service. We have a VA just for vendors and contractors. We have a VA that just works on the weekend, which is typically when you're busy and there's more interaction. During the week, it's either you don't have a booking or somebody's at work. So on Saturday, it's like, hey, the grill is dirty. Hey, there's a spill over here. And it's just that kind of stuff. So we've really been strategic over the last couple of years of how we organize and how we assign everybody their specific role.
So what happens if a VA quits or, has to take care of a family member and is gone for a day or an extended period of time? How do those SOPs, standard operating procedures you have in place, take over and make sure that role is still filled if you mainly have one for that position?
I'm like, have you been standing over my shoulder the last 48 hours?
Well, it's like the inevitable, right? When you grow a team, there's that certain percentage where you're like, there's always something.
Yeah, I come from a staffing background and an HR background, so it took me a little while to realize what VAs were. I've been an entrepreneur for 13 years in other spaces, and I just recently started utilizing VAs, and so it's taken me a little bit of a mindset shift in the sense of really getting your SOPs down, just like you guys said, but because of the fact I'm used to longevity, I'm used to hearing people staying for 2 years. And now we're in a different world and a different space being virtually. I'm used to not having that micromanagement, so to speak, and having those particular softwares that we utilize to make sure that we can look at their activity. Because if you know that some of these virtual assistants, they're opposite, they're 13-hour difference from US. And depending on where you're at, but here in Texas. So when we're at 9 a.m., it's 9 p.m. for them. And so making sure they're not sleeping on the clock, right? Can't just go into their office and go and check. So as much as I did not want to, we utilize a software called Hubstaff to be able to just oversee their computer and if they're just surfing on the internet, because at the end of the day, it is activity and sales activity that we need to make sure, or productivity. But I've had to learn to let go of knowing that people are going to come in and out until we find that right person. And that gets us in line again with our core values. What does those core values look like for a business? What's your vision? And it doesn't matter how small you are. I will tell you, we've really now just kind of, not say clean house, but basically have started over in some of the positions, because it's just, we're growing and we're learning that our SOPs have to be a little bit more tighter. So it's like, okay, now we got to really, really explain this. Now we're leveraging, virtual AI. I'm creating a whole training program just for internal, just so that everyone's on the same page and we're able to understand that. So learning to be okay with the turnover is a big thing for me. But I've learned not to get so personal.
Yeah, for sure. That's a great big picture. So what does happen if someone calls in sick or isn't available for a month or two?
Well, it's a couple things, and so I just want to emphasize that I know, like with Hubstaff, it was a game changer, and I just want to be clear. It's not like we're looking at their webcam. All it is, it just takes screenshots and it just tracks their productivity. So it's not Big Brother just looking at them all day. But yeah, it's we had to, because we always say we're not in the rental business, we're not in the real estate business, we're in the people business, and that really is the truth. We're in the people business. So when things start happening like that, to where we realize we see some red flags and things have got to change, it took us a while to get over the hump to realize that it's either we make the change or we're going down the wrong path. It's just costing us time and money. And at the end of the day, it's like nobody else is going to put food on our table with the exception of us. So that's when we really started doing the SOPs. And again, if we got to move somebody or remove somebody and plug somebody else in new with the SOPs, and like she said, we've really gone down of automating everything, especially now in today's world with AI, with artificial intelligence. It's really been a game changer, because before we would do literally, if anything needs to be done more than once, then we would screen record and show everything from start to finish. With AI now, it's just what would take us maybe 40 hours, we're knocking it out in 90 minutes, just because that's just it's handy for us. And then from that way, then everybody's trained the same way. There's no, well, you told me this, you trained me this way. I've been in that situation before. I've had a TC company, and when you're trying to teach everybody the same thing, but there's no uniform way of training, it gets messy real quick. But when everybody's trained the exact same way, then you can move around pieces, you can plug different people in, and that's really been a game changer for us. And that's why we're very big on KPIs and SOPs.
Today's episode is proudly sponsored by Furnished Finder, the ultimate platform for hassle-free midterm rentals. Whether you're a seasoned landlord or just getting started, Furnished Finder is the place for you. With Furnished Finder, you can say goodbye to booking fees and hello to direct bookings for 30-day plus stays. It's a win-win for everyone involved. So if you're ready to experience the joys of midterm renting and take a load off your landlord's shoulders, head over to FurnishedFinder.com today. We make it easy to get started. We're grateful to Furnished Finder for sponsoring this episode, and we're sure you'll love what they have in store for you.
All right, I want to go kind of off of our content plan here a little bit for our interview and add in another acronym. This is the episode of acronyms. We've got SOP, KPI, EOS, VA. Let's add in AI since you touched on that, because I feel like it's a little bit of a hot topic right now. By a little bit, I mean definitely a lot of a bit. Tell us, I feel like everybody's a little intimidated by AI. Is it going to come in and take our jobs? Is it going to overstep? Is it going to take away human connection? Tell us how you guys are using AI to be more efficient and streamline things, but still keep the personal touches. And tell us, give us some actionable items. What AI tools are you using and how are you using them? Because I think that's kind of the other big question everyone's having is okay, all of a sudden ChatGPT came out and then there's 5,000 more AI tools that came out overnight. So what are you using and how is it helping you?
So I know that that's a very good topic for Vin because he has been in the virtual space and e-com space for a very long time. So when AI came out, we were actually late to the game. It started last November and we found out in February. And Vin has taken it to another level for our marketing. I will be honest with you, in the last couple of weeks is when I started to really dig in, because coming from just a analytical background, coming from an entrepreneur, we start everything from the beginning to end because of the fact that nobody's going to know how to grow our business and know what our vision is. So how would an AI person even know what that looks like, right? I will tell you, it has helped so much, especially that we've come to the conclusion we have to build an internal training, and that starts with what's your vision, what's your core values. So I played around with it last week, and I put in, do you know what EOS model system is? And it's like, yes, traction from Gino Wickman, and these are what you need to do. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So what it's helped me do is I can plug it into ChatGPT. and it will create everything for you of what you're looking at. I say I'm looking to build an internal training module, a program for my internal team of how this is. And it just really helps you so you're not having to write everything down and we get those mental blocks, or then we get the squirrel moments and someone else is calling. So it's really helped me just minimize that time. But just like Vin said, no matter what, it's not going to take our jobs, right? Or at least not right now. I don't know what the future holds, because it's still in that people business. I mean, AI is not going to answer a maintenance call and everything of that nature. It's not going to, it can write our leases, but we still have to make sure that it's still that personal touch. But it's really helped on the administrative side of it. So I currently right now, and again on the operations side, we're using ChatGPT. I know for the marketing side of it, Vin utilizes the Canva a lot. So we'll get the information and it comes up with some good things. Like we're in a game of everyone's in midterm rental space and transitioning over as landlords, because if you were in the short-term rental space, you're trying to find another strategic way. And it's competitive out there. It's competitive to how does your listing look on Furnish Finders? How do you get to the top of the thing? We can only, unless you're an amazing marketing person, only come up with so many different twists and turns. ChatGPT can help you with that and at least guide you. And it's so crazy on some of the things it says. It even actually can help you if you want to write a love letter. So
That's pretty funny. Now I know what they're really using ChatGPT for.
I was going to say I can neither confirm or deny if I've ever used that in this relationship.
Birthday cards, Christmas cards.
I recently gotten some cards with some good notes now on them and good points. I'm not going to say that. I can look in the history and maybe ChatGPT had some help in that.
I would like to add that we've tested out AI for the podcast. There, we use a platform that's well known in the podcast world called Buzzsprout, and Buzzsprout has quite a few AI tools, such as they'll develop you a blog or write up your social media posts, things like that. And one thing I've noticed, you do have to have that human touch, and it's sometimes you really have to analyze, is AI on the right track for where we're wanting to go, or is it taking us in a different direction? Because of course names are often spelled wrong, so I have to go back and fix names because they just don't, AI just doesn't see that. But the other thing is AI is looking for, it seems, the catchy topics a lot to draw in the SEO and social media. So when it's writing up a summary of the podcast, sometimes it will focus on a part that we maybe talked 2 minutes about and make that like an extremely popular part of the description. I'm like, that's not what the episode was about. And so I think you're right. AI and human interaction have to always kind of be hand in hand, but it helps us have kind of that checks and balance to keep us on the right track and really present the best version of ourselves as well, right?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it just gives you like a little bit of a head start. Like it'll take its best shot at maybe the admin part of it where, like you said, Kelly, maybe with the podcast description, you're going through and you're like, okay, I know this. But when it comes to like adding the flavor, the spices, the frosting, like that's where you can't just leave it all up to them. So, but what it does do is it allows us to spend more of our time on that personal connection and, adding the differentiators and adding a little bit of color, which is so funny that using artificial intelligence is allowing us to connect on a little bit of is allowing us to be a little bit more human. So, all right, I want to circle this back because one thing you guys do really well is marketing. So let's talk about how your VAs help you with marketing and a little bit like some of your marketing kind of standards or tips and tricks as well.
Hey landlords, are you ready to level up your rental game and simplify your life? Well, get ready to meet your new best friend, KeyCheck. KeyCheck is your all-in-one solution for stress-free property management with tenant-paid screenings, rent payment processing, online lease creation with eSign, and a suite of incredible landlord tools. You'll wonder how you ever lived without it. No more chasing down checks or sifting through piles of applications. KeyCheck helps you organize and manage all things landlording in a simple and efficient way. So if you're tired of the rental chaos and crave seamless, efficient management, head over to keycheck.com and sign up today. Make landlord life a breeze with KeyCheck, the game changer for modern property owners.
I come from a marketing background, so again, the this year, the 2023 year, has really just expedited everything that I've known for the last X amount of years, because it's a completely different field now with AI. But with marketing, we basically have a framework of what we're looking to do, what we want things to look like, things that we want to be said. And again, with the SOPs and all that framework just provided to the VAs, and all they got to do is just rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. And then we'll look at it as the owners and be like, okay, you're still on the mark, keep moving forward, or tweak this, switch it this way. And then again, with the descriptions and all that, again, ChatGPT, that's probably the biggest go-to that we use. There are other platforms that we use for that kind of stuff, but everything just kind of comes back to that. I would say the biggest thing that I'm grateful for in regards to artificial intelligence is that every now and then you get that tenant that you just can't make happy regardless of what you do. And then you start getting a little frustrated. But again, when you come back to AI, depending on the plugins, you can have an emotional response and then kind of tell her what you're looking to do. And as opposed to calling this guy a jerk, get the hell out of my place, be like, hey, we're sorry that you're having XYZ problem. We'd love to accommodate. How can we make this better? And like, oh man, that's actually really good. That's way better than I would have done. It goes back to what you were saying. It's funny that AI makes us be a little more human towards each other, which is just ironic in itself.
I'm having deja vu here because I feel like I can't remember if it's you guys or another guest. Are y'all the ones that saved 15,000 by using AI to trigger response?
No, that's not us. But I'd love to hear more about that.
Okay, this is so funny. Okay, there's another AI conversation coming up on a different episode. Okay, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, no worries. So for marketing, we do a lot of just past experience. We use AI, we use Canva. Everything's just done with templates in regards to that. Obviously, we always want to try to use professional pictures and photography to always present with your best foot forward. But it all just comes back to a boilerplate template, if you will. We don't do anything trying to figure it out on the fly, because then that's usually when time and money's just burned unnecessary. It's just like I said, VAs properly trained, having the SOPs, having the KPIs, and just tracking everything.
So on the marketing piece, one thing that you said in our past conversations is treat your business like a business and you'll get paid like a business. How do you incorporate that into your marketing?
So this is what we do full time. And again, it's I'd say real estate is a byproduct of what we do. We are in the people business, and we get up every day. There's plenty of times where we're doing something within the business 7 days a week. And even if we're going out to having a dinner to be off the clock, if you will, to build our personal relationship, we'll end up having conversations with people there. And quite often than not, it's either presented an opportunity to turn somebody into a PML, which is a private money lender. Somebody else, it's either a construction worker or some other real estate investor, and then we'll try to do JV deals, joint venture deals together. So we're always looking to be very intentional within the business in every aspect of what we do. And so we very much treat it as a business, because this is what puts food on our table. And that's just my biggest thing for anybody listening to this, is however you treat it is how it's going to treat you in return. If you treat it like a full-time business, it'll pay you like a full-time business. If this is just your side hustle because you saw on a different podcast that rentals is the way to go and it's passive income, I can tell you right now, there is nothing passive about passive income. Passive income requires your full-time attention. I would say, even though it's called passive, it's going to require more than 40 hours worth of work for you to properly treat it and have it turn into a business. At some point with SOPs, VAs, which is what we're currently doing, yeah, you can be a little hands off, but it's going to be super front and heavy to get to that point. The people that you see that are selling masterminds and on other shows, they put in the work to be able to get to that point in their life.
Okay, that's great advice. I think I want to wrap up this part of the conversation with Michelle. You've both, I believe, traveled quite a bit for business. So, in regards to furnishings, how has your past traveling affected how y'all chose to design and furnish your homes, knowing what was important to you at that time?
So before she gets started, I'm going to say that this is 100% her. And I'm just going to say, men, believe in your women, because there's been plenty of times we've had a conversation. I'm like, that's not going to look right. And then she's like, just let me do it. And she's always wrong. So I don't even argue the fact anymore. I'm like, babe, whatever you want, just go ahead and do it.
So I do themed houses, and especially right around the military side of it. So there's always a way to be cost effective. And in Vin's past life, before joining our team and us opening the property management company, he moved out to Texas and had a liquidation company. I never knew what a liquidation company was before, but what they do is they get pallets of returns from Costco, from Amazon, from Wayfair, big different places, and so those returns give them an opportunity to buy and bid on those pallets, and then they can redistribute it to the public and sell to individuals as myself. So when we were purchasing our homes a couple of years ago, I knew that we were going to have to furnish quite a bit of time, and it was going to be, I was buying 2 to 3 properties a month. And so I knew that it gets very expensive if you don't buy in bulk. So what we did is I strategically started to look at some of his Walmart pallets, some of the Costco pallets, and it was I went from staging a house. So typically staging a home is anywhere from $20,000 to $30,000, and we were able to stage 4 homes at $25,000, and these are 4-bedroom homes. Now, the kicker of that is you can't go ahead and pick up all the colors together and say, okay, this is going to be for one room. We had to be very, very strategic around the pieces that you get, because you can't just go in and say, hey, I'm going to go ahead and pick out this color scheme and I'm going to put everything together and let me just order it like a la carte the way that we usually do. This is what you're getting on your palette, unravel it, and it either is, it's together or it's not together, which you obviously get to look at it. Some of the pieces are broken. But also the colors aren't going to match. They're not going to put the whole thing together. So it was fun, but it was a lot of work. And so what we've done since then is I keep inventory of everything we've ever purchased for any of the properties, and we have it in our system with the actual color scheme or what the actual product, and you can get those online and put it in and have an image. So almost like if we have a warehouse within our company. And so when our VAs now, and I say I want to go with a blue and green colored theme, they can pull out all the blue and green colored themes that we have within our store, in our warehouse, so to speak, and then they can order off of that if we need to add more things. It also helps us with efficiency, because if something gets broken, more than likely we can't buy that same product, but we can buy something very similar to it, and so it doesn't mess up the houses that we have staging. So bootstrapped it for the first few properties, and now as I'm actually, we're in construction a couple right now. Definitely, we are now to the point that we can hire someone, that could help us with that staging and interior designing. But that's kind of the fun part for me. I do like doing that part and really coming up with the themes and the colors. And there's times that I come from a construction background, but there's times I've been like, that's not going to look right together. Like right now, kind of what we're doing, like the penny tiles, the black and white with a couple of green splashes and black. So he's like, that flooring's not going to look right. I'm like, just let me do it. But I don't have an interior design background. I really appreciate anyone that does do that. So, but we are at a point now that we can outsource that if we can. Before, I wasn't there. I was really bootstrapping it and trying to figure out how much, everything was costing and so forth. So.
Kelly and I know all about that. How many people? Well, Kelly, you haven't put. I was going to ask you how many pieces of furniture you think you've put together, but you're more the
Me?
scavenger. Yeah,
None.
but that's what I was saying, and then I
I don't.
rethought, and I'm
I
like,
don't love those projects.
no, but and you're more of the like, you're gonna find the piece locally and send your husband with the truck to go get it.
Okay, Dave had to disable and re-put together a bunk bed. Was probably
Okay.
one of the biggest that it wouldn't fit through the doorway together. So that's probably his biggest uh MacGyver piece.
Yeah.
Yeah, we use a lot of TaskRabbit. What I did learn is that our construction team believes that it's beneath them to put furniture together. I'm like, you could, I mean, you cannot combine the two. I have learned that. So they don't. So TaskRabbit, buying furniture that's already complete. I don't like building the IKEA stuff, and that's not my pastime. I'm like, I can my time.
I found a woman who is local to the majority of our rentals who, as a side gig, likes to assemble furniture. So, like, when you buy something on Wayfair and you get the option to have it assembled, we did that for the first time. Then we got her contact information and we paid her what Wayfair was paying her, which is much less than you actually pay when you click on that. And she loves it. She's like, I can put in my headphones. I just like jam out. She's like, I get in my zone and I just do it. She can put together like one of those stupid dressers that takes forever because it comes in 4,000 pieces in like 30 minutes. It's extra money for her. She loves it. And I'm like, I didn't have to touch it. And it was super affordable for me.
I would take
So
30 minutes just to read the directions before I got started, probably.
I
So
would
have
take
to.
30
I don't want
minutes
to
to
do
get
those.
up off of the ground when I've been
Yeah.
building on the ground and my joints would hurt so bad. I've been like, oh my God, my back. I can't stand up. So like there are those people if you get creative.
Yeah, I was going to say that the light bulb moment for us was probably a little over a year ago. We had bought some furniture, some bedroom furniture for the house that we personally live in, and it sat in a corner for a couple weeks to probably a month. And then it was exactly what you said. It was one of those. There was fourth. According to the box, it's a 20-minute build. I think we were on it for
Lies.
6.5 hours.
Yeah,
And
lies.
so
That's
after
too
that, we're like, yeah. I'm like, how do we get VAs to do this? But that's physically impossible because they're not even here. So last summer, what we ended up doing is we started reaching out to local high school kids. They were on their summer break. And so that was truly, truly helped. And so they felt they had a purpose, making money. It was cheaper than, again, contractors that don't want to do it. They want to charge you, well, if I got to build that, I'm going to charge you $300. I'm like, what are you talking about? So
right.
that's just something else that people might want to look into, is that there's usually some kind of, whether it's a high school student or some kind of organization that just needs small manual labor tasks.
But I think there's two important points there for the audience to remember. And the first is that didn't happen for you guys overnight, right?
No.
At first, you are building the furniture, right? Like you got to work up to a lot of this stuff, and that's okay. That's part of the business. That's part of the deal. Is at first you're going to be putting in the grunt work, but then even when you get to the point where you can kind of graduate from that per se, you're still being smart about, okay, let's not pay the contractor $500 to assemble a $300 piece of furniture, but let's find someone on TaskRabbit, or like you said, a high schooler or someone. So you're still being kind of smart and efficient with your funds and your resources. So I just think those two things are important to point out, because I think a lot of times people think, oh, well, I'm still sitting here assembling this dresser. What am I doing wrong? And it's like, nothing. You're just not there yet, right? These are all stages and steps to go through and to grow. And you guys didn't start on day one with a team and VAs and SOPs and KPIs and EOS and AI, right? And any other ABCs. Like you're working your way up. So I think that's important, because it's very easy to listen to stories like yours and go, I don't have any of that.
Yeah, I just want to, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I would say that you're 100% right. And again, I think it got to the point to where the seat that we're in, we were limiting the growth. And so I think at this point, at where we're at, and again, we're nothing different than anybody else listening to this. Everybody can do it. But I think now we're very, again, we're very purposeful and intentional in what we do. And so before we do anything, it's like, okay, well, if I go, and again, we just literally had this conversation this morning. If I go to the property and change the door locks, I'm probably saving $200. But then it's the gas, it's the time, and all of a sudden, a 30-minute fix turns into a 3 hour because I got to do Home Depot and everything else. So, can I save the $200 and do it myself? Yes, but by doing that, am I costing me making $1,000 doing something else? More than likely, because instead of growing the business, I'm back in the day-to-day operation, and that's the way we look at everything moving forward. Is it serving me or is it taking away? And that's how we break everything down.
So I want to wrap up this section with one follow-up thought for the VA part of the business, and remote workers, VAs from the Philippines or wherever, contractors from Upwork. We all work from home, like what's the real difference between a contractor, a remote worker such as Katie and I, or a VA? And I think one of the big pieces is probably the communication piece, and just how we are taught to communicate, within the US in a certain way, to really make it a relatable conversation to our customers. So how does that play into how you train your VAs for the Furnish Finder conversations on, securing the booking, and going through the lease process, everything you need to do from A to Z to like take that lead and have them move in?
So all goes back to the SOPs. And one of the interview, what we do is we have to make sure that the criteria is that they speak, fluid English, and it doesn't. I know that everyone sometimes gets frustrated when you get that call and it's someone from a different country, and it's like I don't know, understand what you're saying. And so those are, and that's on any type of, a lot of people outsource. So making sure that they can be able to deliver that. But one of the things of where we're at in our current position is our EVAs do not handle everything. They will handle all of the contracts, the anything that's not necessarily really engaging with the customer verbally over the phone until we can trust them. So that is always handed back to Vin. So there is still a lot of in hands-on. I know there was something earlier today when you asked Kelly, what happens if the SOP or if they're out for a month or two. Vin does go back into that seat. So as much as we don't want to, this is our business, and nobody's ever going to treat your business as much as and give that same deliverance as you would.
Well said.
So we're not to that point just yet where we have a CEO, COO, and it climbs the ladder. We're nowhere near there, and we've been operating this for about 2 years. Can they do a lot of the administrative stuff? 100%. But when it comes to the customer touch or escalation, that still goes back into Vin or myself. And in regards, as you mentioned, communication, I think the biggest thing for us is having to just have a pulse on everything, and giving that clear direction. We have not just yet found someone that is going to be an initiated person just yet. And if we did, sometimes they think that they're the business owner. So we got to reel that back in. So we've had a different types, and it's going to take some time for us to build that team, and it's ever growing. As I mentioned before, longevity is very different. I mean, your big companies that have had these operations, we don't ever know what that turnover rate looks like. Right. It's frustrating for me because I'm the trainer. So I feel like I'm just training and training and having to still, and so now that's why we're getting that a little bit more automated when it comes to the same stuff. Like, what is our purpose? Where are we located? This is our demographics. This is our inventory. This is how we do things. And then when that personal touch, those are things and conversations that been, we have conversations and overcoming objections and act like the guest. How would you, so we do role playing with our VAs as well, because there's always new things, no matter what. There's always new things that come up when a guest is staying with us long term, midterm, and things happen. And we're just learning
Yep.
how to adapt to that, keeping an FAQ of knowing, okay, this is what happens to this property, or during these times and seasons, this is kind of more of the complaints. It's a lot of data that we have to keep continuing to keep so we can overcome that in the future if it happens.
Nice. I love that. Well, let's wrap up this episode with one last question for Vin, and let's maybe take 1 to 2 minutes to give some advice here. You walked away from real estate for a couple years at one point, so looking at those that are just getting started, or those that are seasoned investors, what advice do you have? Um, that ties back into the background of that story a little bit of how to be prepared in real estate, and where you think it would be best for someone to go in real estate right now as an agent.
So, very interesting questions. So, first off, my disclaimer is no financial advice. Go do your own due diligence. Because I get asked that a lot. And I always tell people, I'm like, I can't tell you how to be rich. I can't tell you how to become a millionaire. I can tell you how not to screw up and how not to lose money. And in my opinion, I think there's a lot of value in that. So I've been in real estate since before the last quote unquote correction back in '06 and '07. It was doing fix and flips in California and buy and holds out of state. Back when you could walk in and if you had a pulse, and sometimes even when you didn't have a pulse, you can get a loan and a brand new KB home through Countrywide. So I left real estate just because when that bubble burst in March of '08, it all just kind of went to hell in a handbasket. But I still always knew that real estate was going to be my big picture retirement plan. I just wasn't around the right people, and not to say that I have crappy friends, but it's. I always use a scenario when you're looking for love advice. Why would you go ask your uncle that's been divorced 7 times? That just doesn't
Right.
make any sense. So I'm like, okay, who can I lean on and who can I approach? I didn't have anybody like that around me. I had people that were theory people, be like, well, this is how you get to $1 million. But I'm like, okay, well, what have you done with it? I'm like, well, nothing. I just tell people. So it just wasn't a good fit. And again, it was one of those nights I was up too late and saw an infomercial and got into a mastermind, real estate mastermind. And then that's when I really learned that if you want to learn from somebody that's above you, that's more experienced, you got to pay to play. That's just my opinion. Not saying that that's right or wrong, but it's really going to expedite that learning curve. And you're going to learn the right way and things to avoid. And that's what I did. I took about a 2-year window off of real estate, and that just really expedited everything. I would say that after that, within the first couple months, I had done more real estate, networked with more people, found more. I don't even. Before that, I wasn't even really clear on what a PML, a private money lender, was, and leveraging other people's money. For me, myself, and I know other people, they always say, well, you need money for real estate. I've heard people even on this call say that, they had thought that, well, I got to show up with a bag full of cash, almost like it's some kind of mafioso movie, showing up to a bank to try to buy a property. That's not really the case. You need money. It just doesn't have to be your money. So I would say if you're really trying to level up, especially in this economy, because we're and again, this is my humble opinion. I think we're in the middle of a correction. And the reason we've been in the midterm space for a while, and we're really doubling down. We're so by default, it's the necessary evil, the short-term game. But I've always said, especially now, short-term is a race to the bottom. And I think that's going to weed out a lot of people. And the people that come out on the other side, I think, are going to be that much stronger to survive this correction. I can't predict what's going to happen, but I have an idea because I've seen it in the past. And again, I would say lean on whoever has experience, lean on whoever is at the point to where you're trying to get to, but don't just be a taker. You got to bring some kind of value to the table, because again, both Michelle and I love helping people. But when there's no skin in the game, it makes it a little hard, because now we're also taken away from running our business. And we've been in a situation to where we've tried to help people, And it's like every 3 weeks we get the same call. We're like, well, have you done this? No. Well, have you done that? No. Have you talked to this person? No. I'm like, well, I can't help you if you're not implementing what we're mentioning for you to do. So again, I would say either pay to have somebody's time and mentorship. That's just my suggestion, and that's going
And
to be
who
the
are y'all's
easiest.
mentors currently?
Mine came from, I know that Fortune Builders is huge for Vin, so that's an OG kind of group, and they keep living strong. Everyone that's like, I swear, everyone that we run into, and we've spoken to, if they're from a Fortune Builders side, they're like, oh my God, it's like, oh great, you are, and even though it was years back. I personally went to Epic Invested, and so they're based out of Las Vegas. But then we have kind of mentors for different parts of how we're growing. So that's how I started with the real estate. Most of these memberships, you can continue to keep going. We have Boardroom, which Boardroom teaches you how to KPIs, accountability, how to scale your business, how to scale and grow it. And we recently we're part of Pace Morby's group and on the acquisition side. So Sub 2, they're doing MidTerm Rentals. There's a lot of people getting into the MidTerm rental game there. That we do a lot more serving, but we also get our acquisitions from there. And the last one that we recently, and again, these are over time. We didn't sign up for all of these in 1 year. Please don't, because you will go bankrupt. Like, it's a lot. But over time, you continue, and just one of the things that we do is when we sign up, we need to make sure we get our ROI instantly. And that doesn't mean it necessarily has to be, paper. It's really the relationships. So doing business with others, learning, giving, and serving. And then recently we signed up for Fund Launch. Fund Launch is because we are looking to create a fund, and this would be in the midterm rental space. So fund of funds, helping other operators and landlords to be able to lend and get money, be able to help them and buy the acquisitions. So those are some of the few that we are actively in, and we're continuing to serve as well as learn, and just going, learning from other investors as well.
All right, guys, I get to wrap us up with a fun fact that you guys know very well, but you're getting married next year. Tell us a little bit about your wedding, and can Kelly and I come, because I heard it's in Hawaii?
Only if we bring a really big, expensive gift.
There we go. Yeah. Yeah. Furnish Finder can sponsor a gift, obviously.
Oh, wow. Oh, a gift. Okay, a gift.
Yeah. I'm like, I hadn't even thought about that, but now we're talking.
Not the wedding, a gift. Okay.
Oh, we thought about this as entrepreneurs. We're like, what if we do like an event before or after? Then it's a tax write-off if our wedding so happens to be between the actual mastermind or meetup that we have.
Might be a red flag.
I don't know. I mean, if we went to that mastermind, I don't know. To speak to your accountant if that ever happens, but we were thinking about that. So Hawaii is a destination, is where we're looking in February 2024. Honestly, planning happened for Maui, and obviously, it's recently happened. So I'm kind of back to square one, but it's going to be very.
There's still other areas
Correct.
of Maui that you could choose. Yeah.
So we are to attend our mastermind for one of our masterminds, Hawaii, in October. So at that time, we're going to start to look again. It's crazy, but some of the islands do not allow you to plan until 6 months prior to the wedding, which is very different, because usually it's 2 years that is normal, like you're planning through. And so it's 6 months. And I started planning, and then that happened, and then work happened. So I really need, and that's why Vin's laughing, because I really need to tie down and get it done. But I think we can make it happen. We'll delegate.
There you go. Get some wedding VAs. Surely there have to be VAs for planning a wedding. Or maybe I just created a new business. If anyone's looking for a business, you can put together a suite of VAs to plan a wedding within 6 months. Here we go. I'm here all day, people.
I think for us, it's going to be we're a little bit, I don't know if it's wiser, but older. So it's not I have a Latin background. We both are, but anyway, the 300 people, we're not looking at that. I think we're looking at like 50 people or less. And even that, it's just, we want everybody to have an experience and have fun. And so I'm not which is crazy because I'm a big control freak, right? And I want the colors and stuff. I'm gonna let them do that over there in Hawaii. Hopefully,
Nice.
maybe what I've heard is people doing destinations over there that when they get there, it's a surprise and it's just like awesome. So that's what I'm hoping.
Love it.
Well, thank y'all so much for being with us today. We just are so encouraged by your story. And if you are loving our show, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. And one thing I've started doing recently is, we've always had playlists for the seasons, but we don't always have playlists for the focus within the midterm rental space. So now you'll see you can
Like some
also go to
topics.
YouTube and look at playlists and search MTR coaches or room rentals or house hacking. Now, after having this conversation, we've had so many conversations about VAs lately that haven't aired yet. And by the time this episode airs, we'll likely already have that playlist built. So if there's a certain thing you want to learn more about, go to YouTube playlists and choose that topic. And we'll just have, keep feeding new episodes into those topics as well. Thank y'all so much for being here. And we hope that you have a wonderful wedding and that you get many guests at Legacy Crash Pads. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.